Okay, good morning everyone. I hope you are doing well. So, welcome to our new video, which is about de Saussure and his contribution to linguistics. So, this is Dr. Nuruddin Darqi, and I will be presenting this this first chapter in our series, An Introduction to Linguistics. So, as an outline to the present presentation, we are going to give you a brief introduction. Then we are going to discover who was de Saussure. Then we are going to highlight his contribution, especially to the field of linguistics. And then we are going to give you a small conclusion. So, as an introduction, Ferdinand de Saussure is one of the most prominent linguistic theorists. He actually is considered as the father of modern linguistics. So, despite his work during his life, his most influential book called the Course of General Linguistics, or in French, Le Cours de Linguistique Générale, was actually published after his death by his student. Okay, so Ferdinand de Saussure is a Swiss linguist, and he was born on November 26, 1857. Okay, his ideas laid foundation for many significant developments in both linguistics and semiology, and we are going to explore how his ideas revolutionized these two subfields, or these two fields of knowledge. Okay, later on, also his ideas were very influential to the rise of a new theory which is called structuralism. Okay, and structuralism had two main streams. We have European structuralism and American structuralism that will be later on explained in subsequent or in following chapters. Okay, so our main interest is understanding how, in highlighting how this scholar contributed to linguistics. So his main contribution was the rise of something called dichotomies. So what are these dichotomies? They are in fact a series of distinctions between concepts, as shall be highlighted in the subsequent sections. So unlike traditional scholars, uh, Dissaucier had a relatively new theory in which he wanted to uh, explain some key concepts or some key phenomena in linguistics using uh, distinction between two concepts. So the first dichotomy was the difference between the signifier and the signified. So he suggested that each word is comprised of two things, which are the signified and the signifier. Okay, so for the signifier, we are referring to the pronunciation of the word. So, for example, here we have table. So, a table is considered, or it is composed of two elements. So, you have the pronunciation and you have the actual concept, or the abstract or the concrete object. Okay, so the pronunciation was called signifier, and the actual concept was called the signified. Okay, later on, or the second dichotomy that was proposed by de Saussure was something called langue and parole. So for de Saussure, langue refers to the abstract system. So here we are referring to the words that are stored in our mind, the grammar rules, etc. So it is the part of language that is abstract. It means that we cannot see it, we cannot touch it, it is just in our mind. Okay, here we have this famous quotation: being a peculiar long is something that the individual can make use of but cannot influence by himself. It means that. So, considering that we are native speakers of Arabic, so we have rules stored in our mind. Do we have the ability to change these rules? Yes or no? No, of course not. So, for example, here in English, for example, a sentence must start with a subject. You cannot start it with an object and say this is correct. I mean, yes, it could be possible, but for some reasons, for example, if you are writing a novel, if you are a writer, or if you are a poet, you can manipulate these rules, but you cannot invent a rule and put it into practice. You just cannot do that. So here we said that long is something we can use, sorry, but we cannot influence. Okay. Parole, on the other hand, refer to the real speech. It means that the concrete side of language, the things you are going to speak. In this aspect, unlike long, the speaker can actually manipulate, and this is why we have something called language variation. So, for example, you pronounce a word in this. For example, the Americans, they tend, for example, to say, I I wear, or something like this. So in the informal American English. So this is for the parole. Moving forward to synchronic and diachronic, here we are referring to two approaches of studying language. So for the synchronic, we are referring to studying language in a particular time in the timeline. Okay, so for example, we want to discuss how, for example, the Americans used to make threats during World War II. So here this is synchronic. We have specified a specific point in time that we are going to investigate a problem. For the diachronic, no. The diachronic, it refers to the study of language throughout time. So here we have the difference between these two concepts. Okay. So, as a conclusion, we have understood that de Saussure uh, was a famous Swiss linguist, and he was a prominent figure in modern linguistics. In fact, most of people consider him as the father of socio or as modern linguistics. Why? Why? Because he provided new insights into the field, mainly something called the dichotomies. So I would like to thank you, and if you have any questions, I will be more than happy to answer them.